Hi, friend. I'm Josephine Millies. I am here today to talk about this thing that I want to work on. I'm I've been thinking a lot about the way that I work and I want to document it more and I want to share it more. So a couple of days ago I started looking through Pinterest, looking at vintage quilts and just really thinking about what's my style, what do I like to look at, what do I like to make, what do I like to share? And I really kind of pinpointed that I really love traditional quilting. And I feel like it's not fashionable to say that. You should be a modern quilter. But there wouldn't be modern quilting without traditional quilting. I love the history of it. I love that women made it. I love that it's simple shapes and that they've been used for 200 years. And it's just squares and it's a different beautiful thing every single time. So um, I'm claiming it. I'm a traditional quilter using modern elements, using DIY kind of punk aesthetics. Um, but the way that I work is process based. I have sort of a vague idea. I have an inspiration. I have an idea. I don't usually know what colors I want to use or what it's gonna end up even looking like until it's finished. So it's not true improv, I don't think, because I have sort of an end in mind and I have a start in mind. So the end and the start are usually the same thing. There's the inspiration quilt, and then there's how I'm going to make that inspiration quilt. And it's never a true copy, but it's very similar. I want to show you what that looks like. So the nine patch is called the nine patch because it has 9 squares. And anytime that you have a nine patch or you have 9 squares, you're making a nine patch. This is the actual design that I'm going for. I made this little Pinterest. There's not that many. If you put in 9 patch quilts, you're going to get a bunch of different kind of 9 patch quilts because there's endless variations for this. There is no like the background should be this, the latticing should be this, the squares should be this. It's simply this sort of cross pattern in little squares and then a bigger square to fill the space. So this was like you see, this one was vintage circa 1890s. This is popular during the Civil War. Anytime you see a quilt that has different colors and it's not perfectly like planned out the way that I love them, it's because they had to use scraps of material. And the reason that quilts like this were popular in the 1800s and the early 1900s and the Civil War era is because they had to use clothes and they had to use small pieces of fabric. This is one that would be used probably in the 1930s because they needed feed bags to make clothes and to make quilts. So once you made a dress, like even this one too, same idea. This is obviously modern, but you can use old clothes or you can use scraps of other things, which is what I would like to do. So the lure of these is that it's beautiful without planning, and you're just allowing the fabric and the chance and trusting the process. And that's my whole thing, is trusting the process. It's going to end up however it's going to end up. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. And it's not the end of the world. Perfection is unnecessary, is like the mantra. It's not even the goal. It's just not necessary. It's not a thing. If you like something, it's like when people decorate their houses and they talk about making like a cohesive thing. If you like it, put it there. And because you're using your taste and your likes, it's going to look good. It's going to be fine. It's going to work out just fine. You don't need to be in Architectural Digest. You just need to be in your house, right? So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to plan this out and show you how I plan this out. So this is my 9 patch plan. What I'm going to do is pick out fabric. I'll show you how I do that. And I want to make a mini patch similar to Civil War era. I want it to be muted tones, deep. I want the background to be black or dark gray. I'm going to make it the size of the bag that I want to make it. So it's going to be it's called the Bestie Bag. Pattern is the size. And, oh, do I want to make a quilt and then cut it into the shape, or do I want to make a quilt top? I think I want to make a quilt and cut it into the shape. Make quilt, cut down. So I don't need to make like a 60 by 60 quilt. I just need to make a piece that's large enough to cut down. So what size am I going to do? I think 1 inch squares. So 1 inch squares. So I need 1.5 inch to cut down, cut to 1 inch. And that means that I'll figure out the bigger squares later. Do I want lattice or not? That's a question for how many colors that I have. I think that's it. I think we're ready to get started. Which means it's time to pick fabric. I have a lot to choose from. These are all Kona cotton. These are a lot of Ruby Star and a lot of vintage. It's kind of the only thing that I use. And I have a closet full of sheets. So I said muted with dark background. So I'm going to start looking. Okay, I think I got what I want. So what happened was I immediately ditched muted because I don't own any. And then I remembered that I have a little box that has scraps in it. And then a lot of those scraps are probably around the size that I need. So I chose to just grab these scraps. And they are a lot of them. Maybe they're a little too small. I'll use the ones that are the right size. So I'm going to have green, gold, and purple of the 9-patch part. And then the outsides, squares, I'm going to do this guy. So next thing we do is we just cut some strips so that we can make the 9-patch part.
If I close my eyes and think about us, I can see the person I know I should be. 'Cause honestly, I don't have no time to...
Okay, so we have our color palette. Here it is. And what we can do now is put it against the background that we chose and see if we like the way it looks. I think it's fine. I kind of don't want one color all the way. So what else we got? We could completely like change the whole thing. but that's too much. I don't like that. We could continue to use these straps, but then it would just be all of this all over. We could go with a deep color. That blends in places, which I do kind of like. Or something completely different and do like this. Which I do like, but it's gonna be a bag and I'm not gonna carry this bag. But somebody else might, I don't know. This is where I get confused because it's like, what's my goal? And I change my mind a lot, which is perfectly fine. But also, I'm not sure which way is the correct way. I think this is sweet. But the good news is that I don't need to decide this right now. I can make these squares and I can put those squares on colors and figure those out. So I am sure about these guys, so I'm gonna make these guys. Again, precision is not necessary. What is necessary is that it's fun, I guess. So we're gonna make these next. So step one is iron your shit because it's been sitting there for 8 years. So pro tip, if you have one of these guys, take them, I'll put them on it, and then you can carry it over all of your stuff over to your ironing board. Okay, so we have reached an endpoint. We have found the parameters of the idea. So I know what the idea is, what the inspiration was, and where I'm going with it. I know what I want to end up with, but I don't have a precise plan of what's going to happen in between. That's the way that I like it. We have figured out the plan. It's like 3 bullet points. And I think at this point, I think it took me 2 or 3 hours to get to this point. It takes longer when you're recording. But 20 minutes of a video. I think those 3 points, 2 of them I ditched already, and that's fine too. So we have picked out colors, found a plan, had an idea, found a plan, picked out colors. We have cut those colors. I cut them wrong, recut them, moved right along. And now we're going to iron them. I didn't record myself ironing because I don't feel like I need to show you how to iron things. Or I didn't hit record. One of those. So next up is ironing and sewing them together. And you're going to need to go to the next video for that. So I'll see you in chapter 2, episode 2, chapter 1.